I remember a judge telling me, Flex, if you think you're going to beat Dorian, you better be more shredded than this. So I said, dude, the only way I'm going to be harder than this is I'm going to be dead. Then you have Ronnie, this is monster. So again, I'm like, okay, this is the look they're looking for, so I need to chase that. I've talked to judges off record, and they said we should have stuck with that look. That's if we did, we wouldn't have the looks that we have now. When we weren't in a lineup with him, when we seen someone struggle, we'd be like, come on, man, we'd be in the back, like, come on, rooting him on. But if I'm next to you, then I don't want to beat you, I just want to embarrass you.
Some people stand so wide, they almost are like screaming at the judges. My legs are small, I stand like this because my legs are small.
Back then, we had more camaraderie. We talk to each other and be on the same ride. And so it's crazy because we have the internet. You think people would be closer, but I think it's actually, caused more division. Bodybuilding before was classic, and we had classic physiques, and they kind of got away from that. So they had to create a class that was literally called classics, whether it's peptides or whether it's running gear. You guess and you talk to your buddies and you see what somebody else did, and you make a decision based on that. The most deadliest drugs that are illegal, cigarettes and alcohol, they kill you in long term.
I've been using modern aminos for almost a year now for all my preps. Get the best peptides tested now on modernaminos.com. Code Leo always gives you the biggest discount possible. Major announcement, guys. The Peptide Encyclopedia is now to download. Check out the link in the description or the pinned comment, or go on my link tree. And the Anabolic Handbook is also available. All the compounds from A to Z broken down into benefits, downsides, administration, and so on. One favor I got to ask you, though, if you could subscribe to this channel to help it grow, to get the highest caliber people on this podcast, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Now on with the episode. All right. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Overcome Podcast. We're here with none other than the Sultan of Symmetry, Flex Wheeler. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the second time getting at it.
Yeah. The greatest to have ever done it. A lot of people say that. So it's very important to me also, and to you guys, I bet, what he is saying about the current developments, current physiques, but also what he's up to right now, the perspective looking back, and all kinds of other things. We'll see how the conversation goes. Flex, actually, I was thinking, what year did you retire? Like the first time?
The first time was it was 2003, right after the Ironman, and that's actually like I think a week later I went into the hospital regarding my kidney transplant.
So that was the reason too.
Yeah, no, actually, like I'd said many times before, in 1999, I was just, those years before that, I was just having complications. Like I would get really bad edema after a show. I mean, I would gain up to like 30 pounds, the next day. And, me and my wife at the time were really concerned with it. So we started going to doctors, and they ran some tests at the end of 99 and in 2000 that came back and told me about the kidney disease I had, and they explained everything, that I wouldn't get out of my 30s without having kidney failure, and I wouldn't make it out of my 40s without a kidney transplant. So it's a disease called focal glomerulosclerosis, FSGS, and there's still no cure. It's the most aggressive and deadliest kidney disease known to man, and most of the people who have that disease end up passing away from it.
Yeah. Thank God that you're still here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, a little bit over 20 years with my kidney transplant. So yeah.
But you came back, and so how was your thinking then? Like you thought, like, a little short burst. You have the good muscle memory. I should be able to do it. And how was the conversation with? I think Stan Hefferding kind of coached you there.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like,
it was
did
actually,
he kind of push you there?
Yeah, it was him. We always had trained together, and that's when Danny Hester had won the first Olympia, and he's like, man, you can come back, you can do this. I'm like, no, dude, I can't do that. I'm like, I got so many surgery scars all over me, man. I'd be so embarrassed. And we just kept training, and he just kept pushing us like, dude, all right, let's try it. And that's kind of how it happened.
So you were already training together?
Yeah, we had been training together. I never really stopped training after that. Once I got healthy again, I continued training, and I was able to put back on, pretty good size.
Did you have to, like, 1 second. Did you have to, like, adjust your training? Because I feel like if you get anywhere close to training too hard, the toxins and
no, definitely. It was nothing compared to, the years before that. It was a lot of lighter weight. I couldn't dare push the weight that I used to. I mean, my shoulders were so destroyed with surgeries and everything like that. So no, it was, I would say, kind of like just general training that an athlete would do, but nothing at a professional level.
So you told me last time too that you were kind of like your biggest enemy and you didn't always enjoy it. When was the time that you enjoyed like the process and the lifting the most, and why was that?
It was probably when I came back to the Olympia to compete. I just, I enjoyed my food that I was eating. I would salivate, thinking about my next meal. I enjoyed the training. I enjoyed the, just to dive into it. I just really and for whatever reason, I really just embraced the journey. I don't know. It's just, it's all in your mind. It's whether you look at the glass, if it's half empty or half full. So in my mind, I was just looking at it, that it was half full. And I was just I was probably pretty excited that I could actually train at that level after everything that I'd been through and the way that I used to look after my kidney transplant and stuff like that. So I was pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, I think it's probably, I kind of think I had the same thing. It's like once you lose something and if you regain it, you realize how much it was worth.
Yeah, 100%.
So like I just remember from getting back to school, I'm like, shut up guys, I want to learn. So that was kind of weird. Like, I went out of school and then got back in to finish it. And I was like so appreciating the education.
Yeah.
And the other kids were like they were almost 20, but they were like not listening or doing other stuff. Yeah. And I was getting mad at them.
So I know like my condition, it was really hard. I didn't think it would be hard to get down to that weight, but it was really hard to get down to that weight. I didn't eat a lot and stuff like that. And then I couldn't refill myself up. But this was a week before, so you can tell the size and how I looked and everything. So yeah, that was a week before the Olympia, before I had to drop weight.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah,
man.
So I was pretty happy, man, to be able to achieve that.
Yeah, I remember this video when you were on the leg press, leg extension, because everyone was like, "What are his legs looking like? What is legs?"
Yeah.
They look like super shredded.
Yeah.
So what weight did you have to come down to back then? It was 205 or something.
I think it was 205, and I know I had competed in my first Arnold at 216, but obviously I was way more muscular. So I didn't think it was going to be a problem, I start weighing myself coming in, and at that weight I was like at 220, so I didn't think it would be that difficult, but yeah, it was pretty rough. And then I think just the whole hydration thing, I didn't get right, and I just came in, incredibly flat, so yeah.
Yeah, but you were really diced, like...
Yeah, I mean,
If Kevin would have been as diced as you at his comeback, because he had put on a good amount of size, but you didn't have...
Yeah. No, I was happy with it at the end of the day when, I was talking to Rico, actually, and, I was really upset about my placing. And he's like, but did you do what you wanted to do? And I was like, yeah, what I really wanted to do was inspire people just who've been through hardship. It wasn't really the place. And he goes, well, then be happy. You did what you did. You achieved that. And then when Ronnie, I'd seen a video he did, and it's like, man, Flex was shredded. He looked amazing up there. So to kind of get that nod from him, I was like, all right, man, But I think as athletes and overachievers, we're always hard on ourselves and hardly ever, happy with our achievements. Yeah. It's like, when you climb one mountain, it's the next mountain. You're looking at the climb instead of being happy that you're at the peak of one.
And also at the time, you're always like, I don't look good.
Yeah.
And then like 3 weeks later, you look back and like, what?
Yeah.
I look good.
Yeah, I mean, look at the picture I just showed you. I was pissed because I didn't think I looked good. And I look at that picture like, good grief, dude, if I could look like that now. But it's always like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's always like that.
It must be kind of cool though, if everyone else, like kind of from your, what do you call it? Like, it's like a college, like, you know, reunion. And you're the one who's still going.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That must be cool. Like,
Yeah,
everyone else, like,
definitely.
I'm still in, guys.
Yeah, no, I actually never got a chance to go back to any of my high school, reunions where, I was on top of the world then, I was, driving super expensive cars. I just really want to go back and show them like, yeah, look at me now. But it was always a show, or a preparation during those times. So I never made it back to any of those, but that would have been great.
Yeah. Do you think overall, if you look at bodybuilding as a whole, because we have classic, do you think you would have went into classic back then?
Oh no, not at all. I would have. I over challenge myself with stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like if there's a bully in a room and there was a problem, I would like be drawn to him. Like, man, cut that out. I'm the type of guy I have to speak up. So I would have to compete against the best in the open. I mean, and no disrespect to the 205s or Mr. Olympia or anything like that. I think it's great because I think it was a challenge for people like Lee Priest to compete in our weight category because we're so much bigger. I think if that category was, at his time, he would have been even more shredded. So I think it's a perfect place for people who have a height that they can't get over. But the open, no way, man. I got to get it in with the boys.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on the open? Because I heard you you posted a picture of yours being like way more detailed and shredded as the guys nowadays. Like, what is your thought on the open? And do you think they are missing like something in their looks nowadays compared to back then?
Dude, you put me on the spot. No, so that post was, somebody had sent me that post. It was early in the morning, and I was just staring at it, and I was like, should I post this? I'm like, nah, I'm gonna get ripped apart if I post this. And I'm like, man, I'm posting it, and I posted it. But that kind of went viral, and I know, I haven't talked to him anymore, but I think probably Derek got offended, by it because it was a picture.
You and Derek?
Yeah, it was a picture of me and Derek. It's nowadays I don't believe in comparing eras anymore because it's kind of not fair. I mean, the point is these guys are the best that they are, and they're winning the show, and that's most important. I don't. I just don't really get into the comparison. Let other people do that, and I just kind of say when someone asks me that question, they already know the answer. That's the reason why they're asking that question. They already know the difference between the two. But no, I mean, guys look great. They getting down. They're making tons of money. But I gotta look like back at Arnold's days when he was just making $1,000 from Mr. Olympia. So it's supposed to get bigger and better, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that the guys are making like extraordinary amounts of money for the shows because we deserve it. We're a professional sport. So how come we're not making like NBA or NFL type money? What's the difference? Those guys have to come into our world of training to get better. Yeah. We don't have to go and play football or basketball to get better. They literally have to come into our world to better themselves. So that makes us like, we're the spawn of that. So, but I think it's great, man. But I'm not gonna get into that.
But nowadays, I mean, the guys are huge. They're way bigger.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel also they're playing the game that they think they need to play in order to win.
Sure. And that's what I got caught up with Ronnie because first Dorian won and he was bigger than me. And I remember a judge telling me in '93 when I won the Honor Classic, Flex, if you think you're going to be there, Dorian, you better be more shredded than this. And I looked at him, and just in my arrogance, I said, dude, the only way I'm going to be harder than this is I'm going to be dead, because I just don't believe I'm going to get in better shape than that. And then, I met Dorian, and he was bigger, and, I feel the reason why he won because he was bigger. He wasn't more symmetrical. He wasn't in certain areas, he was more conditioned than me, but I don't think overall, and I didn't think he flowed like I did. So, and then you have Ronnie, this is monster, that comes out of nowhere. So again, I'm like, okay, this is the look they're looking for, so I need to chase that instead of just saying, hey man, this is the best I can do with the weight. Let me just get that better and better and better, So I just chased that. So yeah, I do think the guys are really chasing size now. Man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm just thinking about the Arnolds, where Nick is kind of the bigger guy.
Yeah.
In terms of ratio between
sure.
height and musculature compared to Andrew.
Yeah.
And Nick is more defined, a little more shredded.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Nick is not Dorian and Andrew is not Flex, but roughly it's kind of like the more shredded guy, the more muscular guy against the prettier guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that scenario, the prettier guy won.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe I'm thinking nowadays the judges, if they had the same matchup again, they might lean towards you.
Yeah, I've talked to judges off record, and they said we should have stuck with that look. Because if we did, we wouldn't have the looks that we have now. But those are the looks that won the Olympics before, right? The shape, the guys who had tremendous symmetrical shape and balance, and even Arnold, even though he was a bigger version than that, you can't say that he wasn't symmetrical and balanced. And somehow it just took a road on guys just being bigger and more muscular and stuff like that. But I think they're trying to will it in, a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be able to achieve that in just one or two shows. It's kind of hard to just change from one to the other, even though they did that, from going from small to big and everything. But man, I'm not a judge.
It's also kind of hard after Lee Haney, because Lee Haney won in all aspects.
Yeah.
It's not like Lee Haney won because he was more
the biggest.
Or more that.
Yeah.
He was the biggest.
Yeah.
He was the leanest.
Yeah.
He was the most symmetrical.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, he wins in every aspect.
Yeah.
So now we have guys that he's better than this and he's better than that. Where are we going?
Yeah.
And then they probably went for one, and then they're like, oh, we can't change next year.
Yeah.
So maybe that was kind of in Dorian in the beginning. I think he was pretty symmetrical and really, like, before he had injuries, I think he had a good look. He just wasn't like the most X-framey, but he had a nice physique actually. But then when he tore his biceps and stuff, then it got a little worse, I think.
Yeah, but he still won perfect scores, so that just makes you wonder.
But the perfect score, if every judge thought it was close, but close for Dorian, he still wins with a perfect score.
Yeah.
Because they only vote one or two.
Yeah.
They don't vote like this guy get 9 points, because some people think they give them points or something. They're not like, oh, Dorian got 10 points overall and Flex got 9. They're like, it's just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So it could be super close, but everyone's leaning towards.
Yeah.
So you never really know. You would have to interview every judge.
Yeah.
But I also feel a lot of times they talk into each other, and I think they shouldn't be allowed to talk to each other, because I think that kind of could be like convincing.
To the other judge,
don't you think?
No, I have to agree with you there, and I know, that was one of the things that Sean brought up in the 90s, like you guys should have patricians in between you and shouldn't be allowed to discuss things like that. I don't really see that happening in other sports like boxing. I don't see the judges sitting next to each other talking and stuff like that. So, we would hope it would be an honor thing that they don't do that, but we don't know, because we see them conversing and looking at,
maybe they don't talk anything important.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess they do.
Yeah.
I think that would be maybe a good idea. Also, I mean, it's kind of tough because on one hand, the judges that kind of train the other judges want them to judge correctly, and they think their way is correct. So it's kind of hard that it's going to deviate at some point. You know what I mean? Like but I think there could be some criteria that are more outlined to the public and for the judges. I think the other IFBB did a good job there. This IFBB Nordic account now is posting, and they're really laying down classic physique. What are we looking for? Like this over that, that over that. It's important, but this is more important. So it's kind of really clear, I feel. And for the judges, it would be too. I think that would be cool if the IFBB would do the same posts, just for everyone, and the judges could see that too. We're judging, you know, this is the main criteria, and this is more important than that.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of cool, I think.
Yeah.
This is my very own clothing line. Faith isn't meant to stay hidden. These shirts put your inside on the outside. One bold Bible verse, epic aligning images for street or gym. Every shirt sold sends $5 directly to Christian charities, building wells, feeding families, and sharing the gospel. This isn't just clothing. It's a walking testimony. Wear the word, show the world what you believe. Order now.
Our guest is sponsored by Palms Place. Visit us at www.palmsplace.co for all your supplement needs.
I've been using modern aminos for almost a year now for all my preps. Get the best peptides tested now on modernaminos.com. Code Leo always gives you the biggest discount possible.
So what do you think would you do now if you're in bodybuilding right now and you want to go to the open? Do you think you would also play that size game? Do you think you might stick to your guns?
No. I would probably, you know, like, well, 216 was an amazing condition.
But think about, you have this. You're not like 50.
Yeah,
you're 30 now.
Oh no, I got you. Yeah, I got you. No, I think if I had the mind frame now, I know 216 was the most shredded I was, but I feel that I was still too small. And I know, like, I like the balance of 1998 when I won the Honor Classic. I was right around 232. So I would have probably just stayed around that area and just try to get leaner and leaner and leaner instead of, you know, chasing weight and, you know, going up to 298 pounds.
It's crazy
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because you're 5'10", right?
5'10" and a half.
Yeah, that's
5'10" when I'm depressed, 5'10" and a half when I'm, you know, feeling good about myself.
You have hollow bones. It's insane.
Yeah. Tiny. They're just tiny.
Yeah.
I just have really, you know, as I retort and get back to my natural look and everything, you know, people can tell now that, like, wow, you know, you're actually really a small guy. But yeah, I'm bony. I have bony knees. You know, I have I have big elbows. I'm just bony. I'm just really small boned.
Yeah. What do you think about this era that is better than back then?
I think back then we had more camaraderie. We would actually, for shows, NPC big shows or IFBB shows, we would actually talk to each other and be on the same ride and, you know, and converse with each other and stuff like that. And even on stage, you know, even though all of us wanted to demolish and embarrass the other person, when we weren't in a lineup with him, when we seen someone struggle, we'd be like, come on, man, we'd be in the back, like, come on, rooting them on. But if I'm next to you, then I want to I want to embarrass you. I don't want to beat you. I just want to embarrass you. But if I'm not up there with you, we're rooting each other on. So I think that's a big difference now.
That's so funny because I've stood outside, and if a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, or someone I just talked to or so was in the middle, and I see he's doing something wrong, I would scream at him and tell him, like, flex your glutes or whatever. I would help him out.
Yeah. So it's crazy because we have the internet. You think people would be closer, but I think it's actually, you know, caused more division and guys are not as close. I mean, we would train with each other, you know, we'd go to each other's gyms and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think they really do that now.
I got a question on the vacuum, because I see a lot of people in the ab and thigh now just pulling a vacuum. Do you think that shouldn't be the case and it should be not allowed?
No, if they want to do a vacuum, I think they should do it, but they should do the traditional ab and thigh where they blow out so their abdomens. I mean, you know, there are some people who can do a great vacuum but having horrible, you know, abdomen, you know, set up with their lineup, or only have 3 or 4 now. That's not an ab and thigh. I mean, you know, it's crazy because we've gotten so far away from what was traditional for years. Like, put your elbows down, you know, put your legs together, you know, feet together, you know, face front, no, put your arms down. Where now guys can open their legs as wide as they want and have their hands like handlebars, and it's acceptable now. But for years, I'm like, probably 30 years, that wasn't acceptable, and you get called out on it.
You know what's weird too is like when you stand a little wider, I get it, but some people stand so wide they almost are like screaming at the judges. My legs are small. I stand like this because my legs are small.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to hide it and you stand that wide,
yeah,
you're kind of screaming at everyone. You know your legs are small.
I agree. And even, you know, like when I training people in posing, I try to explain to them, like, if you look at a car and it's a low profile car, normally you'll see the tires just barely above the rim and it looks great. But if there's a lot of space between it don't. So, you know, when you should just be resting your arms right on the, you know, outer inner of your lat. But if you raise it up higher, you're actually showing how much lat you don't have. But I don't know what the guys are thinking now, but I guess they think they're, you know, taking up room and being bigger. But I think that highlights your weaknesses the more you do it.
I mean, my shoulders go away the higher I do.
Oh yeah, your shoulder caps go away. You don't have any. You bring your arm down, your shoulder cap shows more. Yeah. So
yeah, that's true. Do you see some other things in posing that you would like to change, or you would like to have more of a mandatory style where people don't deviate too much from?
You know what? I'm from the old school, so I believe our era was the best in posing. I think they should, you know, bring their feet together, because now it's going to show you true leg size. I think they should bring their arms down, because now it's going to show how actually wide you really are. And, you know, I'm a fan of my era. I think there should be some incentive for your posing routine and having the best posing routine, because I know, you know, when I was competing in the show, that was an incentive for me. That made me go in a room and work on my routine instead of just walking back and forth and hitting your biggest shots.
Yeah.
You know, so I think there should be an incentive, but you know, like I said, I'm not really involved with judging or anything like that. So, you know, what do I know?
Let me see. Like when you look at classic and open, do you like from the look? Do you like the classic more?
Oh yeah.
Do you like the open more? And do you think the classic might surpass it in terms of popularity?
You know, I think it was Lee Priest who was saying that bodybuilding before was classic, and we had classic physiques, and they kind of got away from that. So they had to create a class that was literally called classic. So, you know, I mean, I see the bigger picture, and it gives guys an opportunity to compete in the biggest show in our sport, because they have more classes, because, you know, just some of these guys aren't built for it. They're not built to have to go in and train and have their upper body just on fire, but also having legs to match it. You know, it does make it a little bit easier, because their legs are, you know, are not as exposed or adjust or anything like that. But, you know, I
when you look at the guys winning, though, the biggest legs are winning. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking of the board shorts class.
Yeah, no.
I
meant
the classic. No, I mean, it's a balance, but still, I don't think, you know, I know there was a lot of discussion regarding Chris Bumstead, if his classic physique can compete with the open, you know, class winner. You know, I'm not sure of that, because size do come into play. It just does. You can't just go up there and be ultra shredded and not have any size, which I always felt that Chris had the ability to walk into the open class and do damage because he is a big guy. And I never really understood how does he freaking diet down to that, because I see him off season with massive legs, just massive upper body. But, I think there's just room for both of them now, and they shouldn't really be compared. But I think a lot of people are drawn to the classic more because it's easier for them to achieve that. It's not anybody, but most guys can look at that class like, man, I think I can do that. Where you look at the open class and be like, God, I couldn't do that. So yeah.
Do you think the weight cap should stay though? Or
honestly, bro, I don't even know what the weight cap is.
No, it depends on your height, the weight cap.
Oh,
but just to make them not another open class, or do you think they should just judge who's classic and then they win?
I know back in our time, it didn't matter your height and size, man. You just run what you brung. You can be, freaking 5 foot, 180 pounds versus some guy that's, freaking 6'6", 290 pounds. And they were able to judge that. I mean, there was an era where Sean was beating the bigger guys. It didn't matter. And he was a lot smaller than him. So, again, I get it why they open, more classes and stuff like that. But I'm hardwired. I came from an era. I watched an era before me like that, and I came from an era, where it didn't matter. You just run what you brung. If you're the best, you're the best. It doesn't matter your height or your size.
Do you? So I'm thinking that there should be a weight cap still, and it's per height. So if you're 5'10", like we're both over 5'10",
mm-hmm.
I'm 5'10" and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
My weight cap is 219.
Mm-hmm.
If it was open now, and I see how they already judged the classic, so I'm like, if I would do everything I can, I would be probably only 208.
Yeah.
I can eat and then I weigh more, but if I would try real hard.
Yeah.
So what they tell me is I need more size. So they obviously judge it after size already.
Yeah.
So if they take away the weight cap, then they will
There's
still
no difference between.
They will still judge it after
bodybuilding
size. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like someone who's then 219, and the other guy is a classic guy, but in open. Let's say Rafael Brandao.
Yeah.
Then the Brandao wins because they're he has more size and he's also classic.
Yeah.
So I think that's
why.
No,
I think it needs to be a weight cap because, you're going to have guys running into what the open category could be, and then what's really the difference. So I think there needs to be a weight cap to keep that separation.
Yeah, I agree. So I already asked you if you would choose a classic or open, so you would still go to the open.
Oh man, no way.
What is it that, because I just jumped into the bodybuilding stuff right away, but you have this shirt on, humans, and you just told me you still train, but obviously you can't go. Bonkers.
I work. Yeah. I exercise. I don't train. I go in the gym and I exercise. So that I have my own podcast. I'm a part of a company that's we deal with peptides and hormones and stuff like that. It's called Prime Mode MD. More people are becoming aware, but back in February, Kennedy changed the laws and he allowed 12 peptides to come through. So that now enables pharmacies and doctors to get involved. So unlike most people before, they buy it from some website, you don't really know, the grade of it or if it's real now. And so the company that I'm a part of, you have to do a complete form of your health and everything, any medications you're taking, and then you'll have a interview with a doctor. He'll go over everything. He'll then require blood work, and then you'll come back and then he'll let you know what your levels are and what peptides or hormones you would actually need. So it's getting everything at pharmaceutical grade. You can travel the country with it because it's prescription, and it's not like everyone guesses what they think is going to be best, whether it's peptides or whether it's running gear. You guess and you talk to your buddies and you see what somebody else did and you make a decision based on that. It's different than having a doctor who's educated and giving you that. I would have preferred that my whole life. Like, hey, if you can just tell me what I'm running based on internally how my body's doing and all that stuff, it'd be a lot healthier. So that's a huge difference. So that still have my company, Flexibility Nutrition. It's really different from having an American company because my company is based in India and Dubai. So because of the war, it's tremendous. It affects things tremendously. So I never like
in the distribution or the pricing or what's the...
Well, I mean, when you're having, we sell heavily in the Middle East. So when you're having bombs go off and people live in their homes and stuff like that, they're not going to be...
They're not getting out to train. They don't worry about taking money from it right now.
Yeah,
I see that makes sense.
And the distribution and stuff like that. So, when you put people in a situation, whether it's eating healthy or surviving, they're going to have to choose survive. So, yeah, that affects everything. We actually are thinking of, within a year, of moving a company to the United States because it's premier anyway. I remember back in the days where bodybuilding.com was a big thing. And I was a part of a company. I'd be traveling globally, and they would immediately go to bodybuilding.com's website to see what how my products were doing. I was like, wow, they really control the world like that. So you have to have a presence in the United States, to be globally successful. You can have, great sales in other countries, but to be able to announce that you sell in the United States and you can be competitive in this market, it really affects the rest of the world.
Yeah, wow, crazy. Were you also in that gym that burned down, Vino's?
No, I've been there once. Yeah, I've been there once earlier last year after FIBO. after the Dubai Super Show. I was able to go there. So no, that's horrible. I know he'll...
So they didn't carry your products?
No, they didn't carry my products here. Yeah, they didn't carry it there.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah. So I have a friend, actually a few that lived down in Dubai, and yeah, they also saw bombs going off and stuff. It's kind of wild. I hope for everyone it'll be done because I'm just thinking if the oil prices go up, and yes, we have the oil, but the oil price is international, so it doesn't matter. That's why our gas prices go up, and if gas prices go up, everything's transported by trucks.
Oh yeah.
So everything that's transported, groceries are transported.
Yeah.
So grocery prices might go up. Yeah. I was just at Costco.
Yeah.
And I was amazed because the ham price went down. I was like, how's that possible?
Yeah.
And so that was.
But I think it's definitely going to be.
It's going to be.
It's going to be a major problem because you got to think about the farmers and how they're hurting. Even with the immigration of them getting rid of a lot of those guys. It's people are saying they're taking our jobs. I don't know of any American who would go and work in those farms and do that type of hard work. But those farmers have to have their produce transported also. So, I have noticed, the price of certain things going up, red meat, eggs, like that, milk, and orange juice. But, I hope it comes to an end. I don't really get in, talking about political things because it's just you're going to lose because it's a lot of hate on one side, it's a lot of hate on the other. I think, the red and the blue need to come together and work on this. I mean, if we're supposed to be the united, then why is there a division? But there's people losing their lives. I'm a parent, so just think about if you had kids and you couldn't provide a home for them, you couldn't provide water, you couldn't provide food, and you're on a run. You're the parent, and that's or you lose a child, or the child loses you as a parent. So people are dying here. So that's not cool. That's not cool at all.
Definitely not. But I think everyone would agree that it should, like any war, should come to an end as fast as it can. Yeah. So if you don't agree with that, then I'm sorry for you. I don't need you as
you're not going out there fighting, and you don't have your kids out there going to war. So,
definitely not. But what was interesting? I'm not going to go into it, but I talked to a guy that was actually a Pakistani, and he knew a lot about that, or like he claimed to, and it was very interesting just to hear another perspective. and on what's reported, because we're all not there.
Yeah, we're not getting reported the truth.
If you think you know the truth, then you're pretty naive. So maybe what you think is the truth, but if you think you know it, I mean, like, come on. If you're not there, and if you're not having like actual reporters in multiple ones in multiple cities, people you trust telling you what it's like, then maybe just don't go into it.
I agree.
Because it's been like every decade we have some more, and it turns out it's different than we were told.
Oh yeah.
So if you think this time it's all correct, it's like, come on. Right? Yeah. So let's get into the war on stage again. And you said you're having this peptide, let's call it, or HRT hormone clinic.
Yeah, we do peptide and hormones.
Yeah.
And also the GLPs, we do those also.
Yeah, I think it's very important to just state too that if you are taking any peptides and you just don't want to just, like you say, assume, oh, this might benefit me.
Yeah.
So if there's no issue, you shouldn't take anything.
Yeah.
If you have something to fix, then I would say, okay, what's the cause? Can you fix the cause? Then you don't even need the peptides. Maybe you need the peptide to heal and then fix what's causing it. Because I see so many people that have shoulder issues.
Yeah.
They taking the peptides, but they train the same way again that led them to having those issues. And it's like, buddy, you can do both, but you have to change the cost.
Right in the mud, right out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and even though most of them seem super safe, also from my experience with people that took it, clients, whoever, myself, it's like, if you just take something like 2 years straight because it might improve your recovery, but you don't even have an issue really, I'm like, who knows? If some levels are supernatural for a long time.
Yeah, I think what peptides really bring to the table is there's a lot of people out there who just don't want to take gear. And now you actually have peptides that can help you with that. They can help you recover. They can help you with muscularity. They can help you with getting lean. So it just gives you an option now. Where before, if you just really wanted to get at it, that's your only choice, go on gear. No matter how little it is, that was your only choice. So that's what peptides does now. And now that it's legal to have an actual doctor in a pharmacy, so now you're, I mean, like, I want to ask you personally, but, a lot of the times, so a lot of the times when you buy your gear, it's from a company. It's not pharmaceutical grade.
Yeah, of course.
So you have to kind of trust and work with them, or who's worked with them or whatever, and you just got to wonder. And there's been so many cases where guys have gotten injuries and cysts and stuff like that, or, they find out their gear is like not what it's supposed to be. It's nothing at all. So that's a major difference now in having a pharmaceutical company that's actually making it and a doctor prescribing it. So it's just, it's kind of cleaning up the market. That never happened with gear. It never, even though all those things were made for a reason, that never really happened to where, let me go back. Back in Arnold's days, and just as I turned pro, there was doctors who used to prescribe us. We would go in and get blood work, and they would prescribe us drugs. But that changed, when they changed the laws and made it into a class 3 felony, which is,
I think that was Joe Biden.
Actually, it was way before Joe Biden.
Wasn't it? I thought it was Joe Biden.
No, it was way before Joe Biden. I mean,
no, in 1989 or so, I think it was him.
No, so this happened. I was actually in police academy. This is 1986 when it became a class 3 felony, class 3.
It was Reagan.
Huh?
It was Reagan.
I don't know who was president.
Or under Reagan, but yeah, I thought he enforced it or something.
Yeah, no. You know what? It might have been because it was a whole no push, say no to drugs. And, I've had conversations about that before. I mean, again, there's ways now that you can have doctors prescribe you things and help you. But, when you say no to drugs, I mean, that's the oldest cliche in the world is, take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning. So our doctors are literally telling you, hey, take these drugs and, let's see if that works. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of, and it should be, you know, a lot of interest on gear and stuff like that. But what about all the other drugs? What about like the big corporation drugs like cocaine? They're not going in there and busting those guys up. I mean, you know, they have some of the most legal things that you can buy legally that are so deadly. Look at cigarettes. It's literally telling you what's going to happen. Look at alcohol. Yeah. You know, how many people have, either they kill you in long term or they killed your kids because they ran over and killed them. So, you know, I really find it interesting when they talk about certain drugs that are really going on a bandwagon, but, you know, you find out that they're utilizing other drugs, you know, and stuff like that. So, I wish if it was just a clean field. If you're going to go after drugs, go after cocaine, go after heroin, go after meth, all the same way. But now you're going to be walking into CEOs companies and stuff like that, you know, because, you know, that's kind of the higher level, you know, income drug, you know, cocaine and stuff like that. But yeah, I really think it's interesting, you know, and we got two of the most deadliest drugs that are free, I mean, that are legal, you know, cigarettes and alcohol. So, yeah.
When you look at, I had Chris Bell on, who did Bigger, Stronger, Faster.
Yeah.
And I think in his movie, he also showed the list. I mean, that was 2008 or so. Mm-hmm. But, like, the drugs and how many Americans are killed by them.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's not as many people taking steroids as there are smoking.
Sure.
Nowadays, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, steroids were number 143 or something.
Yeah.
There's like 142 more deadly drugs.
Yeah.
And that's what they decide on. So I think they just make some scapegoats and like also to make themselves, you know, make their names like virtue signal, you know. Like, oh, I go after this. I'm such a good guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking out for you people. So I think that's more the case.
Yeah.
But I like medical freedom, like the right to try and everything, and of course, like also for steroids, you could also be like, let's make some legal that are the least harmful. Let's say whatever. Nandrolone, testosterone, Anavar, Primobolan.
Well, I mean, testosterone is now
that's
prescribed.
But I'm just meaning like those 4 or 5, and like let's keep trying illegal or you know halo testing. Like who needs that, right? But certain things are like, I mean, and people take them anyways, like you said. But you know what's interesting, and I think it might come in the States. Maybe it's already. If you guys know, so there's a form in Germany. It's a paid form. It's like $1 a day. And it's a buddy of mine made it, and they send in to this Janoschik guy all the stuff, and then they have a list on what's fake right now and what's
That's cool.
for the brands and everything, and you can look at the results, or like you can also see if it was underdosed, but it was still in there, was on there.
That's interesting.
So that's really cool, and I would like to see that. Someone does it in the States. I bet you guys could make a good amount of money. So go ahead. If someone has the means and the know-how.
Definitely.
I think that would be a good thing. And you would actually do something good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could prevent people from major issues. So, and you can expose frauds. So why the frauds under the frauds because it's still illegal. But
Well, frauds as far as claiming this one thing and it's not.
Yeah. Do you have currently physiques that you like best? Like, who's your favorite guys in Classic? Who would you like to see win there?
You know, bro, I really am.
You don't
just
want to
not. I for some reason a lot of things I say people really take it like personal. We're in a sport of where we judge people anyway, but sometimes
Well, it's a positive question though. I ask for the best, not the worst.
You know what I'm good. I'm good.
Who was the last one you trained? Was that Keon?
Actually the last that I trained was Andrew.
Oh, Andrew Jackson.
Yeah.
When was that?
That was for his when he won the Honor Classic Amateur and turned pro, and then he went and won his first Arnold Classic in England. That's when.
Would you want to train him again? He's free again, freelance.
Yeah, I know. I seen. I was watching a video over here, and you know, I understand a lot of what Kamel is saying. You know, like he said, you know, like Dennis had asked him, hey, if he gave you the amount and said, okay, I'll give you 5%, would you train him? And Kamel's like, I don't think so, because it's just bad energy. So I don't really know how that would work. We would have to have a really deep conversation and honesty on why things fell apart before. But you know, yeah. I don't know, but yeah, I would entertain it. But you know, I think things would literally have to be in writing this time instead of a handshake and hey, this is what we're gonna do and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's coming on Tuesday.
Nice.
Did you see? There's this. So when this airs, it's already been done. But at New Tech Gym, there's Battle for the Olympia. This where they film the training, and Wesley is. I mean, they couldn't get everyone. So Wesley is there with Ramon for Classic, and Derek and Andrew are training. And Terry Galgindi is there, and moderating.
I've seen those before. Yeah.
I think last time it was in Arizona, Phoenix. And this time they're doing it here. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that's nice.
Does it have to get aired sometimes? Like,
oh no, it's just pain. It's just pain. Yeah, it's just pain.
What do you do against the pain?
Dude, it's nothing left that I can do. The first surgery, because there's 3 different nerves down there. The first surgery, like, oh, we're going to go in and inject them with this fluid that's going to kill the nerves. You know, so that's 3 separate surgeries. You know, unfortunately, those didn't work. And then the next thing was like, you know, okay, we'll go in and cauterize them. So that's 3 surgeries. You know, those didn't work. And
so they tried to numb them?
Yeah, tried to numb them first, and they actually cauterized it where they actually, you know, just burned them, and it shouldn't be any sensation anymore. That didn't work. And the last one was where they put these electrodes in my spine, and I had this machine I could turn it on and off at different degrees, and it's supposed to send a signal to shut off the signal of pain. That just sent me straight to 10. So now it's just, I mean, I've had enough surgeries and relationships with doctors where they're really honest and are like, listen, man, we know more about space than we do the nervous system, which helps me to understand, okay, you guys are kind of just trying, but it's you know, I mean,
could it be phantom pain too?
So I do have phantom pain where it feels like I have my foot or my toes are being bent back and burnt, but I have neuropathy, so it's different. I mean, lately it's just been really like super freaking active, but I can only explain it like I've said in my videos before. It's literally like when you see like lightning go across the sky and it breaks up in these tiny little pieces. That's what it feels like, because the nerves are just everywhere. So only way, you know, for anybody who hasn't had nerve pain, I can only say if you ever been to the dentist, you know, and they actually touch the nerve and you just jump. That's what it's like. I mean, you just literally freaking just jump.
My teeth are all fake. So I got them all done by Dr. Connolly in LA. And there's sometimes some severe pain.
Yeah, so just imagine that uncontrollably, you know, just throughout the freaking day. That just never stops. It really does something to the brain. I mean, there's no way that you can be in consistent pain at different levels that just doesn't rewrite your thinking and, you know, and brain and stuff like that. So, but, you know, what I try to do is I don't try to focus on myself. I try to focus on people who are worse off than me, and then understand, like, dude, they got it worse than you. You know, just get on with your life and try to do what you can do. But like I said, I mean, even this war where you're seeing kids, you know, just in a hospital, you know, with their legs blown off, or, you know, families who just, you know, don't have homes and don't have food. I mean, I don't know what that's like. I don't ever want to know what that's like. Just not being able to provide just the basic, you know, needs for your kids. That just haunts my brain. So when I think about people around the world who are going through worse than me, you know, the kids who are being sex trafficked and stuff like that, it really helps me like to realign, come on, man, what you're going through, it's not that bad, you know, so.
Yeah. it's kind of sad and good at the same time.
Yeah.
That brings me somehow to, Dexter Jackson, who was given a Lifetime Award, and it was really touching for me because he said he is now giving his life to Christ.
Yeah.
And I loved hearing this speech, and I loved hearing that he's doing that.
Yeah.
And there was a switch for you too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've told the story before. I'll be short with it. I was raised in church. I knew about God. I went to church every Sunday as a kid, and I kind of just pulled away from it and just thought I can do things on my own. And when I met Rico, we really formed this bond, and Rico had never been to church at all. And after years of us knowing each other, he started going to this church, and he just completely switched, and really like cut me deep, because like here I've known about him, yet I walked away, and Rico learns about him, and he's like that, I'm gone, so that really cut me really deeply and got me back focused on that. So yeah, with Dexter, we talked a lot, and we talked about the Bible, and about him getting baptized, and his girl getting baptized. Actually, next Saturday, I'm flying down to his wedding. They're getting married and everything like that. But no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I just had sent him a message like, man, it's an honor to, be able to call you my brother in Christ. And we consistently talk. We talk about things. We keep each other on track. And it's like, he said he was talking to a friend, and before he had known his friend all his life before, it'd always be about this, that, and the other. And his friend now is saved, and he goes, man, our conversation is just different now. But he's like, yeah, that's great. So no, I'm proud of him that he made that announcement. Yeah, but I've been trying to walk that walk for quite some time now, and that's kind of like more. I'm being more voiceful about it, because a lot of craziness is being more louder, so we have to now stand up and be louder and be seen. So like I always get asked like, how did you do this, or how did you do that? I'm like, that's because of him. Yeah, but you had the Symmetry. I'm like, that's because of him. But yeah, but you train hard. Like, that's because of him. So I can't take credit for absolutely anything I've done. I can't even save my leg. I can't do anything. I can't make my heart beat. It was all because of his grace. So, I just kind of, and people hate to hear that, but it's absolutely the truth. I wouldn't be able to walk. I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for him. None of us would be. So you got to give grace to that. And now being older and having, so many health problems, I think of, when I'm not going to be here, how long I'm going to be here. You see so many people are dying who are younger than me, and I've been through so much worse than them, so it's like almost like every morning I wake up like, oh my God, you gave me another day, and bless me to be able to be, have a life or live a day where I lead someone back to you. So yeah, definitely, it's an honor to wake up every morning, because you got to think of how many thousands, and you don't do that when you're young. You just don't,
I do.
Yeah, you just don't. Most people just don't really do that when you're young. But you got to realize how many people didn't wake up this morning, or how many people didn't go to sleep last night. So when you kind of think about things outside your control and the bigger picture of things, it kind of it should help center you a little bit better.
Yeah, I see so much going wrong in other people's lives that I just can't believe how well everything's going, and the little things are not going good. I'm like, that's nothing. Like you said, it's absolutely nothing. And people focus on that, unfortunately. What kind of struggles does Dexter go through? Like, what kind of struggles did you talk about? Because there's so many questions.
Yeah.
When you get into it, first you'd be like, but this seems like a contradiction or that, and I've delved into everything and figured everything out. But what was he like? Did he have like some doubts here and there, or some questions?
No, when he finally admitted to me, he was pretty solid on his way. At the beginning, you're called like a baby Christian because you can't be fed the hard word, immediately, because you're going to run from it. So it's like a baby. It's like a baby. You feed baby food. You don't feed them steak. They can't handle that. So our conversations are more on that alignment and just, trying to hold each other faithful, and then just, kind of thinking like, man, the way I thought before or the way I looked at people before is absolutely crazy. I can't comprehend having that type of mind frame anymore. And just to hear him, talk to me about certain things, is just like brings joy to me. Like, man, you are locked in, stay locked in. He's just on fire right now. So I talked to him before he got his lifetime achievement. It's like, what did you do? I'm like, yeah, I had this little speech. I said this, this phrase from, the Bible. And he goes, so you got to speak? I'm like, yeah, so watching him speak and being able to say that, to everybody, I'm sure, he tremendously affected a lot of people. I mean, honestly, I feel that, I'm aware that God gives gifts to everybody at different levels. Some are meant to be able to give, some are meant to love, some are meant to be athletes, some are meant to be beautiful, but it's all to be able to bring back grace to him. So, now I'm fully aware of my ability to be a great fighter and martial artist, and then my ability to be great on stage was to be able to say on stage, hey, this is all in honor of him. That's why you're given those gifts, to be able to honor to him. So now I'm aware of it. So my platform now, I try to talk about it and bring it into play. And, and in some people it rubs wrong. I'm sorry, the truth is the truth, so if it rubs you wrong, it's kind of like we say, it's aggravating the demons inside you,
What is the thing that people like counter with the most, or are offended by the most, or?
Some people are just, I watch videos, there's a couple of guys in England who just stand on the streets and they just talk with a speaker about God, and it's crazy. You see people just run up to him trying to snatch your microphone and like, you don't talk about that or whatever. It's like, it's wild. But, so a lot of the contradictory is like, is the Bible true? How do you know? How do you know that Christ was here? Or just not credit him at all at being born or anything like that, or not being, the Son of God. Listen, hey, the devil is hard at work, and he knows he loses at the end. So imagine you were fighting a fight and you knew you were going to lose. Would you not throw the kitchen sink and everything at it? So the closer we get to the end of times, man, he's on fire. And, just seeing a lot of the entertainers, a lot of the actors, a lot of our commercials that talk about certain things are trying to get us used to these dark things to where they're normal.
Yeah.
Where in other times, like, oh, you can't do that. You can't, that's not going to happen. But look at this. I grew up in a time where we said the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school, and in the Pledge of Allegiance, it mentions God. They took that out. You can't even, like some business, you can't even say Merry Christmas because it's offensive to people. Yeah. So, like the devil's hard at work. He's trying to switch it so that God isn't as himself. You can't even bring up, God in certain conversations. People will get angry about that, so, yeah.
The interesting thing is, for me, oftentimes people don't believe in something supernatural, and then they immediately are like, oh, so you're an idiot, and there's no proof, and it's just a fairy tale.
Yeah.
But once you dig in and you look for the evidence is so overwhelming. Like when you look at the Old Testament and how many prophecies there are, and how many eyewitnesses then talk about Jesus fulfilling these prophecies.
Yeah, crazy.
And it's
400 years.
Like Isaiah 53,
yeah.
like pierced, and they will reject him. And I get
goosebumps. Yeah. And that was like 400 years before he was ever born.
And then he comes, and then he gets resurrected, and over 500 people see him afterwards. The disciples see him afterwards.
Yeah.
Women see the empty
it was the one who first seen him. Yeah, he revealed himself.
And in that time, claiming that women saw you first, was stupid.
Yeah.
If you want to lie, you're not saying women saw you because no one believed women.
Yeah.
Women weren't as seen as men.
Yeah.
So there's so many things. Like ask ChatGPT if it's more probable that Jesus was the Messiah or that he wasn't. And I bet you ChatGPT will tell you.
I've done it before.
Yeah,
I've done it
ChatGPT
before.
will tell you.
Yeah.
It's the most probable thing it is because there's almost no contradiction. And in eyewitness accounts, people are like, oh, they're not exactly the same. If you have 5 people witness a car crash, they won't tell you the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They will think this guy might have had black hair when it was brown or
Yeah.
something. And there's, contradiction.
Yeah.
If they have the exact same thing in there, that's a contradiction.
Yeah.
Because 5 humans won't tell you the exact same story.
Yeah.
They will have.
And in the Bible, you have people.
Yeah, but the
hundreds
main
of
thing
years
will
apart.
be the main thing has to be the main line of story. That has to be the same, and it always is.
Hundreds of years apart. I mean, the Bible was written over 400 years, throughout like something like 200 or 400 years, and you have different people in the Bible claiming and saying the same thing. I mean, certain verses you look at and they're identical. It's almost like you're reading the same thing. So, hey, listen, I'm just very aware of that. I'm very aware of what's going on. I'm very aware of what's going on in Israel. I'm very aware, is Israel the same Israel that he was talking about? Or is it different? And, I'm very aware that for people who don't know the truth, they don't understand that eventually there's going to come people, here who are going to be able to perform miracles and claim that they're the Messiah. And because they don't know the truth in the Bible, they're going to be misled. I think there's probably going to be a point where just the Bible isn't even legally allowed to be sold anymore. I think we're literally going to get to that point and then it's it's going to be like the most sacred book that you can have. But brother, I'm amazed and pleased that you know your scriptures, man, and you're a believer. That's amazing.
I think it's Romans 9:6. Yeah, Romans 9:6 it is. For they are not all Israel who are Israel. Mm. So it is not the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God, but the children of the promise counted as the seed. Mm. And it goes on and it means Israel are the people fulfilling the promise. So the nation of Israel is not just descendants from the people back then who lived in Israel. Yeah. Israel is the people of God. Yeah. Yeah. So we are Israel. Yeah. 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 And so don't confuse government also with Jewish people. Yeah. This anti-Semitism is so stupid. Yeah. I mean, some bring it onto themselves because they confuse the same way back around. Right. They feel offended when you offend the government. Sure. So then those people can't be they can't be mad actually, but it is like I have a bunch of Jewish friends. They have nothing to do with it. Yeah. That's just ridiculous saying it's the Jews. No, you can't. And I get that. I get that people in their ignorance. Just one thing. I really don't like the German government. Dude, am I anti-German? Am I germaphobe? No. No, you just don't like the way they run things. Yeah, and I'm born in Germany. Yeah. I get it, because the Bible talk about the Israelites and how they're chosen and all that stuff. And what people don't understand is you're talking about hundreds of years before. So if true Israel was Israel, would they be trying to kill people? Of course not. And that's the one thing that that Jesus said is love your neighbors. Love your enemies more than even your neighbors. So that's not what's going on. So, I can understand where a person is really coming from by the words they're saying. And you have a lot of people now who are there in government positions that claim to be Christians, but your actions don't speak that way. So, hey man, listen, there was a guy from, I think, the 1950s, and he was a radio personality. And I sent it to everybody that I talked to about it. And he says, if I was the devil, and then he goes on about the things that he would do. He would destroy the church. He would make it seem that right is wrong. He would make pornography a big thing. He would, go into the churches and have pastors who have powerful congregations who are really misleading them into all of that stuff, and it's everything that he talked about, and I'll send it to you. Everything that he talked about is going on right now. And he literally,
and it's weird, like when we as a country have a major problem, we all come together and pray. I mean, you've even had presidents say, "Hey, let's have a science of prayer when things have happened."
When they get sworn in.
Yeah. So, I mean, geez, so.
You thinking of Ronnie putting his hand on the Quran?
Yeah, so, but hey, my thing is I pray that everyone comes to understand who he is, and, praise him that he is Lord, and try to lead a life. And, what I used to get a lot is, well, you did this, you did that. How could you be a Christian? Becoming a Christian doesn't give you like a superpower of not doing wrong.
Yeah.
It's just you're completely aware that you've done wrong. You ask for forgiveness and you move on. Where there was a time where I thought it was just me. I did this, I did that. And just understanding, dude, you didn't do nothing. You were put in those positions. You were given that body. You were given that work ethics, and stuff like that. So it's sad, and I have a lot of friends who are they still about that lifestyle, and I'm like, man, how do I affect them? And there's a pastor Phillips that I follow a lot on Instagram, and he talks about how hell is going to be. You're literally still be able to feel pain, and it's forever. So imagine, which we can't, the worst pain you ever had in your life. And imagine worse than that, and just it never goes away. And being able to understand that your loved ones and your friends are in that position, and how can't you save them? You're going to be looking down, looking at them. So it's really a difficult thing. So what I just try to do is I'm not pushy. I'm not in people's face. I'm not pounding the Bible in their face. I just try to live a life worthy of them just asking me, how did you do this? Why did you do this? What empowered you then? And then I opens the door, hey, this is what helped me, and I get asked a lot, like, how is it from going to being like one of the greatest and doing all these amazing things to losing your leg? I'm like, it's humbling, it's humbling, but in those dark times, I leaned on him, and, and it says, praise him, not only in the bad times, but in the good times also. So I praise him like, God, it could be worse. Thank you for, allowing me to be able to go through this, because it opened doors, me talking about before, now it's a big thing, me talking about before being suicidal. It opened doors for people to understand, like, wow, he did these great things, but he struggled too. Maybe I'm going to be okay. So it gave me a window to be able to talk to other, literally talk to other people who multiply tried to take their life, and then having a kidney disease, being that opened the door. And now I can relate. I can talk to people who go through kidney failure, and now losing my leg. I mean, I think we all at one time looked at a person who didn't have an arm or a leg and kind of glance over and just like, wow, what is that like? Well, I know now. So I can actually relate and speak for those people who've been through that. So, it puts me in rooms. I kind of jokingly say there's not a hat I can't put on. I can put a hat on of being a millionaire. I can put a hat on being poor. I can put a hat on of being molested. I can put a hat on of being abused. I can put a hat on of had multiple surgeries. I can put a hat on of being an amputee. I can put a hat on being, there's a lot of hats I can put on. So there's not too many rooms that I can't walk into and be comfortable. But I am aware that my speech only hits certain ears. And when people reject that and, talk nonsense back to me, like, hey, that message wasn't for you. You're not ready. Hey man, I'm happy you don't know what it's like to go through these hard things. That means you had a great life. I'm glad for you, but my message was really for people who went through dark times or going through dark times. That's what I'm trying to affect.
Yeah, and people have to have an open mind. They have to, if you're not believing, you should at least believe in the thing or the fact that you might not know everything.
Yeah.
And there might
and that's the problem. A lot of people think they know everything. And it's just fake. It's like I have deep conversations with my sons now, Kenan and Darius, and they ask me questions and I'm like, it's from faith. I just believe. I choose to believe. It's like when you get in your car, you turn it on, you don't wonder. It's by faith. it's literally faith that you believe that. I mean, get on an airplane. You don't go and check the pilot and say, hey, let me see your credentials. You just walk in the back of your seat. You sit down and relax. It's through faith that you have that. So I choose to believe through faith. And, you know, like a lot of old timers that I met, they're like, you know, would you prefer to live a life of trying to be kind, you know, like Christ, and finding out that he didn't exist, that you lived a beautiful life, versus being on the other side where you're trying to manipulate, steal, rape, or kill someone, you know? So, I mean, yeah, but I understand, you know, like how he mentions there's going to be so few that, you know, are called to him. And, you know, it makes me like, wow, you know, that's going to be harsh, but there's billions of people in the world. And we see it throughout entertainment. We see it now on commercials. We see it, you know, in movies. They got to bring up certain things. And what they're doing, they're trying to make us, you know, kind of get used to this. And you know, unfortunately, it's not. You know, you read the Bible, it's just certain things you cannot do, or it goes against him. Now, at the end of the day, like I hear a lot of times where, you know, say if you're a lesbian or you're gay or whatever, what are you doing in the church? Of course you belong in the church. You're amongst other sinners too. Them, and, you know, not getting deep into that, but them and their sin of living that way is no worse than our sins, or all sins are equal. So, you know, you need to, you know, realize what the Bible says and try to follow it the best that you can. And then understand at the end of the day, none of us are going to get to heaven through our actions. I mean, no one can live a life worthy enough to go to heaven. It's from his grace anyway. Yeah. But there's certain requirements that you have to try to do and try to live to be able to even be in that conversation.
The beautiful thing about Christ is, or let's call it our religion, is that our religion, is the only one that is based on faith and being saved first, and not based on fear of judgment. Yeah. And other people, and in the Bible also, there were Jews saying, like, we lived all our lives for these, with the laws.
We followed the laws and everything.
Like, what was it for? What was it for? And it's like, if you have faith, you live according to the laws because you have faith, and not because you're afraid of judgment. Yeah. So it just shows that those guys, that it's not all of them, but those guys that asked it, they only did it because of fear. Yeah. They didn't do it because of they loving God and having faith. Yeah. That's super sad. And a lot of religions are like, just be good so you won't get to hell, kind of. Yeah. And ours is like, we believe in Christ and his resurrection and his love and kindness and his values and morals, and because of our conviction of believing in him, and that is making us want to do the right things.
Sure, yeah. And you want to be like him. You want to tell me none of us can come close to him, but our desire needs to be to do the best we can at being like him. So, in being like him, no, you're not going to talk bad about people. Yeah. You're not going to put certain races down. You're not going to put your enemy down. You're not going to kill someone or steal someone. You know, you're not going to rape somebody. You're not going to, like, say if you're in a business position and you made a bad choice because you just want to you're not going to do those things because it's not what you do.
I would say in general, probably yes, but there are exceptions, and Jesus does it himself. Like, he calls on us to expose false teachers.
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does.
False teachers.
Yes,
so
he does.
It kind of depends. Like,
yes, he does.
It's like, if it's little things and you just like being kind of malevolent, sure, don't do it. But if there's like false teachers or hypocrites, or people that, you know, use, I mean, our religion.
He wasn't nice when he called me. When he went in the synagogue and turned over tables, he wasn't being nice about it. You know, so you're right. Yeah. It's you know, you have to stand up. And that's why, like I said, you know, the worse the dark side get, the light needs to shine even harder. You know, so I love it, man. I see these Instagram posts where all these like NFL players are talking about Christ now. I'm like, man, that is beautiful. Do you know how many people who looked up to you as an athlete are now just going to like have that seed like planted in their brains? And and hearing actors talk about, no, I gave my life to Christ. So I'm like, man, that's what we need. That's what needs to be done. And those people, because they have such a high presence globally, he gave them that in order to call to him that, hey, this is why. So that calls other people versus a guy that you don't know who's talking about, he's not really going to have a large effect on people. So I think it's absolutely amazing, man. I get chills when, I hear these young athletes, just talking about, how they gave their life to Christ, or quoting scriptures, or they're doing an interview and a person's trying to ask them, well, this, that, and other. It's like, oh, because of Christ, I got to give all glory to him. So the interviewer's kind of getting like upset, like, no, I asked you a question. Like, no, I gave you, the question. You just need to accept it. So it's absolutely amazing.
And just what I want to say in the end is, like, don't confuse Christ with religion.
No.
There has been done bad things
done in the name of religion.
Yeah. But Jesus never called for this.
Yeah.
That was an abuse of power.
Yeah.
So the same way that I don't know as much about the Quran, I know there's some bad stuff in there too, but I think the main thing is still a lot of goodness and a lot of good values, right? So if people blow up the World Trade Center in the name of the Quran, for example, then it's like, then please don't blame the Quran, because I'm pretty certain the Quran didn't say, in 1500 years, it was written 500 something. In 1500 years, like flying kill the non-believers or the wrong believers. And we believe in someone they see as a prophet, which I can't understand, because he must be either a blasphemer or he's the Messiah, but he can't be something in between.
No.
Because if someone says he's the Son of God, you either have to say he's the truth or he's the worst.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, he's in between, he's a good guy.
Yeah. It's interesting,
I don't get it.
A lot of...
Maybe someone can explain.
A lot of evil people will acknowledge that he is real, but they don't, I hear a lot of, it's sad, like, I would be talking to somebody and like, well, I'm religious, but you don't go to church, you don't try to follow him. So, and there's been so many holy wars. That's not what he stood for. So, it's not about religion. It's about trying to be a Jesus follower and to be like Christ. So, it's different when someone say I'm religious. What does that mean? That's like saying I'm a bodybuilder. So, okay, what does that mean? What are you doing about that? So it's just being a Jesus follower. If you're a Jesus follower, if you fall off the line, hey, listen, you dust yourself off, you pray and ask for forgiveness, understanding that you are forgiven. Now move on and don't continue repeating, that sin. So,
and get in community.
Yeah. You got to be like-minded. I mean, when I hung out and I did horrible things, I hung out with guys and girls who are about that life, but when you change your life, I mean, I can't even listen to the radio anymore.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to music anymore. I listen to a lot of like popular Christian rap, these young rappers who are using tremendous rapping skills, right? That they could have made it, but they're rapping about him. Or I just freaking click on my Bible and have it, play through my radio. It's hard because, I mean, a lot of the music out there is negative. It's talking about womanizing, or a woman talking about how to get over on a guy, or how to cheat, or I cheated, or how, I can't listen to that because it's negative energy, and music is powerful. It's powerful, man. I mean, music can bring different races together and everything, and be in the same room, not even liking each other, because that's how powerful music is.
To be honest, like, imagine instead of these negative gangster glorification rap songs, the black community would have kept it with soul and jazz. That would have been, I get goosebumps. That was so awesome. They had such great musicians. I wish there would be a revival of jazz and soul. That'd be so awesome.
I think I don't know that much about the music industry, but I listen to a lot of the things that Prince would say, like, be aware, use the internet, don't let it use you, and all those things. He was so right in a lot of those things. And how could you produce something and let it out, and then you don't have any control or make any money off of it? So, I think, they're really, being ripped off a lot, but I think there's a lot of negative people who are at the top and are like, you have to write this type of music or else you're not going to get signed. So it's now making a decision on whether you're going to feed yourself or whether you're going to go off and do that. And in the Bible, it talks about there's going to be times where you got to make a decision, and where, whether you're going to be able to eat or whether you're going to lose your life. And I mean, I don't want to be here during those times, but it talks about, Christians, believers being beheaded because Satan is going to be so close to coming here. I'm like, man, it's fearful when you, well, I shouldn't really use the word fear because God can give you a spirit of fear, that's Satan, but it's very unnerving, just understanding if you have a grip on what it's going to be like towards the end of times, when the four horns, sound, at each horn sound, the devastation that comes. Yeah, man. So
I'm trying to be very aware of not getting into business with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think, it might benefit me. I get a bigger voice, and the bigger voice might be good for me because I can do a lot of good with it. But as soon as you do it through the wrong means, then it'll turn on you.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just encourage everyone to keep doing the right thing because it also will keep your mind at peace.
Yeah.
And He will provide. And if you do the right thing and you work hard, He will provide.
Yeah.
Just do your best.
Yeah. Just understanding, I mean, living a life like Christ, you have to be if you're going to live a life like Him, you got to understand the suffering that He went through. So just because you're successful doesn't mean that, that's a good thing for you. So you got to understand living a life like Christ doesn't keep you from not having to go through horrible things because, for me, every bad thing that I went through, it brought me back closer to Him. In the times where I was doing super great, it's like, I don't really need Him. So those things are convictions and they're going to continuously happen. It doesn't make a promise that you're just going to have this great life and nothing's ever going to happen to you because, I mean, I really understand that generations before me and my generation, we went through hardship. It created character. I was raised in a time where, if you're 8 or 9 or 10 years old, you knew how to clean a house, man. And you were home alone and you didn't mess up or go outside or anything. Your parent came back, and now it's different. You have kids having kids, so they don't teach us those things. So now you having the police who don't correct them in love because it's a job for them, and a lot of them are very hatred. So you can't even spank your kids. Now where I come from a world you got a spanking and a beating if you need it. But every time I got a spanking, I knew I was wrong. Even if I was mad, at my mother or my grandmother, my dad only spanked me once. It was a wrap. All he needed to do was one time, I'm good. I never need nothing from you again. Mm-hmm. But I always knew I was wrong, but it helped correct me, and even in the Bible, it says, don't spit a rod, correct your children and it'll come back to you. So, we're at a time now where you can't even spank your kids. You get the police called on you, but the police can go out and murder or brutality or beat your children. Now we're just really in a backwards world, but it's okay.
I guess with the spanking, it's difficult because there's a spectrum within that word. So is it like a clap, or is it really brutal?
Yeah.
That's
And I mean, is for me, it's based on what you did. With my kids. I think Kenan was the only one. No, Brandy. Kenan and Brandy was the only ones that I spanked with a belt. My other kids and I would test this on them as their kids. I would play with them rough and hit them and stuff like that, and they're laughing. Mm-hmm. But if I spanked them, not even with the same intensity or power, they would cry. So they understood what was going on. So in that time when we grew up, we knew why we were being spanked, and we knew that we deserved that spanking, even though we're rebelling against it. Where now, again, I think everything is just different. Back in those days, you had to work at being an athlete. Now people just want to know the crossovers. They don't even want to know the basics. This immediately so we're just in a different world now. We're truly living in different worlds. And my dad is still alive, and he's 85 years old now. So to be able to talk to him and his perspective, I was like, talking to him a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, wow, Dad, I couldn't have survived back in your time. He goes, yeah, you would have, because you knew better. You know, if a white person was walking down the sidewalk, you got off the sidewalk. You didn't make it. You knew better, or else you're going to get a beating or murdered. And especially get a beating when you get home to your parents because you just disrespected them. I'm like, wow. But he lived in those times, and he's not like now in these times. So for him, he's like, you guys are absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's probably for them back then. It's just like not crossing a red traffic light.
Yeah,
It's so normal.
Yeah,
that you. I mean, if you grow up with something and then it's normal, you probably don't really. I mean, you might feel unrightfully, treated.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, it's crazy. Like I talked to my son Darius now, and he have 2 kids, and he has his daughter a lot, Sky. So he's very disciplined on her, and I watched, like, that's interesting. And he literally told his mother, "It's like, you should have been harder on me. You should have spanked me when I deserved it." And she's just like, "What do you mean? Like the little that I did you?" He goes, "Yeah, but you should have just dominated and just been harder on me." But sometimes it takes you to go through life to understand that, and then understand, as a parent, you're not perfect, and at a certain time, a child, as they grow up, they think you're a parent, they think you're like, King Kong, and then they grow up and they see your errors and stuff like that. And a lot of times kids can judge you on that. Oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. But when you become a parent and you see your struggles and how you didn't make the best decision and they grow up, then it makes you like, wow, I got to go back and have a conversation with my parents and forgive them in hopes that my kids forgive me for the errors that we did. But it's just, there's no book written on how to parent your child.
There's a lot of books written
on how to parent, but that's not your child. It doesn't have to be your child. So there's no book written on how to raise your child. You have to learn that, mistakes and errors, and hopefully, live a life Christ-like where it's more or less the Bible that's leading the house than you as a parent.
I think, though, spanking is really not necessary because in my case, for example, dude, I remember I was like 6 years old or so, and I told my parents that they should spank me now. I did so bad. I should be spanked. Why are you not spanking? Like, for real, I was like 6. But I think my parents, they did a good job of, it is so important how you behave.
Yeah.
Because they just watch you.
Sure.
And they were really good role models. Mm. So they didn't have to even say that much. Mm. And they just gave me, like, the
basic... They live by example.
Yeah, and the basic rules of, being polite and how to behave. Mm-hmm. And then they were great role models, and they had me be very independent. Mm-hmm. I went to school, I walked to school by myself. I rode my bike to soccer practice. Yeah. Did everything by myself. Yeah. I was at home alone at like 7 years old. Yeah. Because my parents were musicians.
They knew how not to burn the house down.
And they can't, like, they had no money to get a nanny all the time. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm by myself. So what am I supposed to do? If the parents, I mean, it depends on the child. Maybe I was just a smart enough child that they trusted me that I'm going to burn the house down. Yeah. But, they give you the basic ground rules. They just say, just don't use anything in the kitchen and stay in those rooms. Yeah. And we're good. And
And you look at it now, like you said, I think it's parenting and it's also the child. You have to grade your children and understand that they're different. But if a 7 or 8 year old got left at home now, and somebody found out, they kind of take your child away. And, spanking again, you got to be very aware of your children and understand they're individuals. So like my brother, Darnell, who's like a little over a year older than me, he was just like, if he did something wrong, he'd get a spanking. Like, I'm not going to cry. I'm like over in the corner crying. Like, dude, cry. Just get it over with. So he would challenge that. Where me, if you raise your voice, I'd almost piss my pants. I'm like, I don't need no smoke. You know what I mean? So, but we were different. So you had to raise us differently. So no, not every child needs spanking. But at the end of the day, there needs to be some type of disciplinary action that they don't want to happen.
That's
and it's, you know, so it can be in stages now, like take your phone away, or you're grounded. Well, I don't even think kids will freaking respect being grounded now, but we did back. So it can be levels of that. But where I came up, there was no level. Did wrong, consequences are getting a spanking.
Exactly. I think the consequential aspect is the most important, because nowadays I see so many parents all the time. They're like, oh, you know, something's going to happen if you do this. Nothing happens. No.
Big surprise, guys. I'm now with Gasp. The clothing is very cool. Everyone who's deep into bodybuilding knows GASP stands for bodybuilding. Now 50% off with my code Leo for a very short amount of time. In over a decade of coaching, what I learned is you have to be able to ask the right questions and then know the proper answers. That's what I do best. If you want to find out more, get one of my 2 books I wrote on training, endocrinology, peptides. Sign up if you want to join my coaching. Links in the description below, or just message me on Instagram.
Something's going to happen if you do this. Nothing happens. So they get through with everything. So they won't believe that anything's going to happen, because there are no consequences.
Yeah.
You just have to be consequential and be a good role model. I think that's half the rent's paid there.
Sure.
But obviously, you know, we're born with some kind of character, spirit.
Yeah.
Because we're not all identical twins. And
Right.
And even not our brains too.
Yeah.
Identical twins.
Yeah.
So obviously, like you said, there is no book written for that one individual.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some good guidelines.
Sure.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that you have to.
But when you get into the thick of it,
kind of raise them the same, they turn out different.
Yeah, it's like learning how to, you know, captain a boat. But does it teach you, that book, and even that book talking about if there's turmoils and winds and waves, you don't really know until you go through that.
Yeah, and the waves are never going to be the same.
And it changes. And so, so I mean...
Oh, that wave, I know that wave. I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the waves are always going to be different.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good metaphor for life.
Of course.
Has, like this, the waves are always going to be different.
Yeah.
So, and then unpredictable.
Yeah. You know, like the waves, life is going to ebb and flow. You know, it's going to come in close and not. And you just, you know, like I said, I think you need to, you know, for me, I always try to protect my kids from harm. And if they got in trouble, I was up there immediately at school and stuff like that. And now I understand, you know, I needed to let them find out in their own a little, you know, because you build that motoring skill of finding things out on your own. And, you know, it's really, you know, my oldest son, my oldest daughter, Brandy, you know, my son, Kenan, and my son, Darius, have kids now. So it's really amazing, you know, to watch them on how they parent their kids versus, you know, how, you know, we were parent or how they were parented and stuff like that. So, yeah.
If you have a parental advice for bodybuilders, now, meaning you're the parent of the upcoming crop, what is some advice that you, or some things that you generally would want to tell the new generation or bodybuilders nowadays in general? Some wisdom from your perspective of being
Yeah, I mean, man, challenge yourself. It's going to be hard work. I mean, anything that you want to be good at, you got to just work hard at it. And you can't always depend on somebody else. Maybe your training partner didn't show up that day. Now, what are you going to do? So it's really an individual thing. And I think you just really need to, I think, you know, athletes, pure athletes, we're just driven. Whatever we're going to do, we're going to try to be the best. I mean, I used to play swimming pool basketball with my daughter Pearl in the pool. She's 8 years old. I'm dunking on her and, you know, not letting her score. And, you know, my wife now would be like, flex. And I'd be like, you know, no, life isn't going to be easy. She needs to learn. You can't just get things, you know. I mean, I remember she was doing, you know, the cycling, you know, all the obstacles and stuff like that. And they give everyone a freaking trophy. And I'm like, that ain't cool. Yeah. because you didn't deserve that. If you got last or sixth or whatever, you shouldn't be rewarded for that. It's first, second, and third if that's the way you have it, or through fifth. That's just going to be a award. But so it's going to take a lot of dedication. It's going to take a lot of you, learning, and then just. It's so easy to learn things now. You can type things up on the internet and learn, where before we had to find out our own or talk to the old timers. But also you got to be aware, just because something is popular on the internet doesn't mean that it's true and that it's going to work for you. But at the end of the day, I just feel that I believe everything is written already for us. We just have to follow the script. It's like having a child. You have a little boy. If you played football, baseball, basketball, your dream is, they're going to do this. So you have it written for them already. And if they follow the rules and be a good kid and all that stuff, they'll be blessed with those things. But, the thing about parenting it is...
But do you think there's multiple paths written and, like, the best one is written, but you can't still deviate?
No. There's more than one way you can get to your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more than one way you can get to your own.
Otherwise, I would disagree.
No, everybody have different lifestyles. A person poor versus a person's rich, that road is going to be different. You ain't going to have the same things.
No,
but you're trying to achieve the same goal.
I just want to say that someone who ends up poor or bad, I think they have multiple paths that might be written, but they chose to deviate from the path.
Sure. Yeah, and so I feel like Christ have a life for us. We're to be rewarded. We're to live an amazing life, but it's based on us of making those decisions that deviates away from that. So I just truly believe that the book was written for us already, and all we got to do is follow Him, and everything's going to be okay. And understanding that, for me, okay isn't being rich here. Okay isn't having a house and having food. Okay is that I make it there. I don't want my reward here. I don't look for that anymore. My reward here on earth, my reward, I hope to be with Him at the end of time. So that's my reward. Where a lot of people really focus on getting their reward now, and they're making that desire their God. And He says, don't do that.
I think by following Him as close as you can, you will reap the rewards anyways, because it will reflect on your life being good.
Yeah.
Because it will also make you, meet the right people and say the right things at the right times if you do. Like, that's what I always pray for every morning, that I stand my ground, that I stand firm on the truth and I not deny it, because I think that's one of the main challenges to go through when
especially
you're amongst
nowadays,
people that are like a group of people, let's say, and they're like, F you, and they're like really bad, and then you stand your ground, like, I'm not talking like that, like, I don't want, guys, like, if you want to talk to me, speak properly, and like, whatever, you have to stand firm, so that's what I pray for, and then I meet the right people, and then be guided by the Holy Spirit.
So I agree with you, I agree with you, but I'm also where certain people are meant to go through hard times to help other people elevate. You listen to, the people back in biblical days, man, they walked freaking hundreds of miles. It was roughing them. A lot of them were put in prison and beaten and stoned. So, but we look at them now, we read about them in the Bible, and we're inspired by their perseverance. So I think there's, like I said, there's just different gifts that we're all giving at different levels, based on what He feels that we can handle,
There's no one we admire and say, oh, he had an easy life.
Yeah, and I kind of, I try not to, but I'm still a human being. So I really question when a person I had this vision from God and it was to make $1 billion and this, that, and other. And I'm like, in my understanding, there's nobody in the Bible that God called that were happy about it, because it was something rough or bad that they're going to have to go through to persevere. So,
Yeah, and you really have to be careful. Like, if you're really a Christian and you say, oh, I was called by God to do it. Were you really called by God to do it?
Yeah.
If you weren't really called by God to do it and you're that sure, don't say it.
Yeah.
This is this is not something you just say.
Play with.
You're just like, oh, I just felt God called me to do this podcast. No. If God didn't tell you, then you heard his voice, and it was definitely not yours. And it was definitely God, not Satan. You deadly sure. Go ahead.
You got to be aware where that voice
careful.
is coming from.
Yeah.
You have to have a relationship with him to understand what voice that is. Our parents' voice, we can recognize it. If your parent called you right now, you recognize their voice from another voice. So you got to be able to recognize that your parent is talking to you and not somebody else. I remember like competing, when my sister would show up, I could always hear her voice no matter how noisy it is, because she made a certain type of scream, and it just made me relax. Or, back then I would look for my significant other in the audience, and I can identify, okay, I see him, all right, I'm great, let's go battle. But you have to be able to recognize those things. I know we had a long podcast. I'll end it. I just watched this video where this guy was talking about his daughter being born, and, he showed a video of her 2 minutes old, and she was screaming and crying, and he just said, hey, baby, you're okay, your baby okay, and the baby stopped crying, and he then said, it was like maybe an hour later, the baby started crying again, and he grabbed her and touched her hand and like, you're okay, I love you, and her eyes opened when he said that, and it gives me chills now, but he's like, that's the same thing with God. You have to listen to his voice, you have to be still and be quiet and understand that he's saying it's okay. You're crying, you're going through these hard times, you're thinking all these things, but he's like, no, it's okay. And just understand that voice and recognizing, that voice. And if you have a relationship strong enough where you understand his voice, like, wow. So along with that greatness comes a great responsibility. You cannot deviate from that. You cannot make mistakes when you're that close to him. Or else it's going to be significant, consequences to those things, and you're going to affect a lot of people. I get it why pastors end up sinning and falling. Okay, so Satan is only after the people who are doing good, the people who are the bad. He's not after them no more. He already has them. So would you prefer to get a person who's homeless and cause them a sin, or this great leader of this church? Well, obviously, if he causes great leader of this church to stumble, then his whole congregation stumbles. I get it why, the captain or the deputy of, whatever city, their children might be the hardest to handle. It affects everyone. It affects our entire community. So you have to be careful with these gifts that he gives you in whatever aspect of having a big podcast, or being a great actor, or being a police chief, or just being a person who has, provision over other people. You got to be really careful with that, because you can affect many.
But also as a Christian who goes to church, I would say don't idolize your pastors too much.
Oh yeah,
don't
you got to be the word. Oh yeah,
because it's still all to Christ.
Yeah.
Because if you idolize your pastor too much, and you find out, oh my God, he's been doing these bad things.
True.
And that might make you, get away from Jesus.
Yeah.
And Jesus had nothing to do with it. No,
exactly. Exactly.
So
no, you're so right. You're so correct. You need to have the Bible as your God and your God. And, I love the churches that I hear about where they preach the word. They open a book, and like everybody open a book. Don't just take, it's called GB Christian. GB Christian. So it's in, Green Valley area. I'd love to invite you one day.
You come to City Light.
Have
you been to City Light?
No, I've never been there before.
Oh yeah. Let's go.
But
I know your church. You go to mine.
Yeah, let's do that. But it's like at the beginning, he goes, everybody, hold your phone or your Bible up and say word, because we're about to dive into the word, and he'll tell you, don't lean on me and my understanding. Read this afterwards. You need to read that. And you need to know the words. You need to follow the Bible, because there's going to be people of great power and great deception. And if you don't know what the true word is, you're going to be misled.
Yeah. And also, not everything in the Bible is the exact word of God. That there's eyewitness account, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, like I said, someone sees 3 people, and the next guy said it was 4. And we're just humans, and we write this 20 years after, and then this might be something slightly off.
Sure.
So that also means that if there's something in there, also relate back to, okay, did Jesus teach him that? Where does it come from? What you can definitely always count on is what Jesus said.
Yeah.
But, and the other stuff, a lot of people say the Bible is God's word, and I know what they're saying, but not every word is 100% God's word. You know what I mean? So I think that is also important, because then some people will read something and they will be like, so this is a no-go now, now I'm done.
Well, I think a movie, you can have 2 people watching the same movie and come away with different perceptions on it. I feel that the word of God is in the Bible, and these people were given the power to be able to write about their witness account, or what they've been through, or how he affected those. And I believe him, and I get in these conversations where, well, this book was removed. Listen, so knowledge is really powerful. Knowledge is really dangerous. So I just choose to have faith that, he's going to give me the substance that I need. And then there's certain things that's going to be beyond my understanding. And when that happens, I lean on his understanding. Now I go back through faith. But I don't get caught up in that. I can't remember. I'm not great at scriptures, and I wish I could get better at that. But I understand people are given different strengths. But there was a time where people were so powerful, they were trying to build this pyramid to heaven. And finally, at the top of the pyramid, the guy shot the bow trying to shoot God. And at that point, he's like, while you humans are too powerful, I need to cause division. Yeah, I caused division, and now that you're going to go in different areas and speak different language. So knowledge is power. So, you kind of think like we go to the moon and how far we've gotten, but we're nowhere near where he is. We think we're traveling, and you have some of the most intelligent people, talking about there is no Christ. But it's really interesting. I've listened to a lot of powerful scientists who are like, no, there's evidence that Jesus did live here. The Big Bang is when God said, let there be light, so, and all these things. So, I just understand that the devil is hard at work. He's going to try to get the most powerful, most influential people to do this work, because he's going to be able to cause a lot of division between that. But you just got to have your foot solid in the word, and just believe and have faith.
Yeah, it just one thing on the authors in the Bible. A lot of them were filled by the Holy Spirit, and that also in attendance of others that witnessed it. And apostles and disciples were apostles in there. They or someone like Paul was called by Jesus to go out and spread his teachings, which that gives obviously a way bigger weight to what he's writing in the Bible than if there would be one guy just stating, oh, I saw Jesus here in XYZ, So in that way, it is still through human, the word of God, obviously.
Sure.
I just wanted to clarify that. I'm not thinking there's just some guys that write in the Bible that just saw the guy. And,
It's their way of writing and expressing their emotions, and it's a lot of people who can read Greek. So the Bible was written back in those languages. Only 2 languages back then.
Yeah, Hebrew and Greek.
Yeah, Hebrew and Greek. So you got to understand what the Bible is doing now is trying to translate those words, and understanding and being in some of those countries. There's no word sometimes that translates into those words. So what they're trying to do is try to give you the best description of what was going on,
but
at the time.
For the doubters, these original texts still exist. So we can look at them all the time and be like, was that wrong or not? So it's not like, oh, they translated everything wrong, that's why this happened. No. We can go back and see if it was wrong. So don't come at me with this. I'm just like always thinking what the doubters are going to say. You know?
Yeah, you know, I mean,
I want to just take away the doubt.
But it's always going to be doubters. You go back to the, it's
I
crazy.
I doubted for a very long time.
Yeah.
But it was also because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't really dig into it.
Yeah.
And I also thought I was smarter than the other guys. Like, how can you think that?
Yeah.
And then I realized, man, he was always with me.
Yeah. There's always going to be doubters. You know, you go back in Christ, I mean, he's literally performing miracles, making people walk, making people come from death. And they still doubted him. I'm like, man, it's crazy that you're walking and you're seeing what this man is doing,
and there's
and
no
you
one
still doubt.
Who was there and said he didn't do it.
Oh no. But you have doubters. There was always people who doubted, and that's why he was murdered. He was, by doubters and stuff like that. So I get it. If you have people who actually lived amongst Christ and seen what he did and doubt him, of course, we're so far away from him now. What he did here on earth, of course there's going to be doubters, there's always going to be doubters. And, for me, sometimes my doubters keep me in check because I grapple with things that people say now that affect me. I don't just always believe that I'm right. I dig into what they're saying and see, like, is there any light? Is there, am I wrong or anything? I just don't look at whatever I say as solid. My brain now, I'll grapple if somebody like, even back when I was competing, Rico would say like, man, you need to do more cardio. And I'm like, dude, look at me. But even though I'm combating him, in my brain, I'll go and I'll do more cardio because I'm like, could it help me or would it make me work? Oh, it's going to help me. Well, go ahead and do it. So I just grapple with those things. So, they kind of keep me in check because it keeps me rooted. And I listen to them and then I go back and check and see if there's any possibility of anything that they're right, that can help me be a better person. And if maybe it does, maybe it changed their outlook and now I just affected them. But I'm just aware that I don't do anything. People who, give me these compliments or how I affected them or what I said or whatever, I just immediately say, hey man, God to glory, be God to glory, because I didn't do that. I can't physically make you feel no way. That's just the spirit of the Holy Ghost, whatever that you're seeing through me that affected you. That was him. That wasn't me. I didn't make you feel better. I didn't make you not be suicidal. I get a lot of messages like, man, I seen you open up about your suicidal and, I was just about to take my life and I seen your video and I stopped. I'm like, man, that's beautiful. But I got to let you know the very root of that wasn't me. That was just him speaking through me, and I give that credit. So that's what I'm about now, man. I'm just trying to, just live the best life, try to follow him as best as I can. And hopefully I can live a life worthy that I affect others. Because if they just had that seed, he does the rest. I can't do nothing. I can't make you change. But if I just cause you to have just that wonder, all he needs is you to crack the door open, man. He'll open the whole thing for you from there on.
Yeah. Guys, crack the door open. Subscribe to the podcast. I think we're done with the podcast now, almost 2 hours. It was amazing talk, man.
Definitely.
Man,
I had no idea that it would go this direction.
Oh no, me neither.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
That's just the spirit. That's just the spirit of God. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably not going to be too excited about this podcast because we didn't give them what they normally would be expecting, but we definitely gave them what they needed to hear.
And we gave them like 50 minutes or an hour of bodybuilding.
Yeah, boring stuff.
They can turn off after.
Yeah.
I hope not. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Check out Flex on Instagram. Everything will be linked below. And God bless you guys.
Yeah, we're out.